Hey, what's going on, guys? FlynnMasters coming at you with a very interesting video here. As for those of you that missed my community post, I recently rewatched season 11 in preparation to do my Janelle story video. But the problem was there was just nothing of substance for a story until like the final 8 or so. Like, it just didn't feel right to do a story video for her, as mean as that may sound. So, to me, I essentially wasted around 20ish hours of rewatching that slog of a season. So I figured I might as well get something out of it and do a different kind of video here, as I'll be ranking all 20 chefs from this season from my least to favorite. So yeah, be a fun way for you guys to see my opinions of all the chefs this season, from the obviously very memorable and good chefs to the forgettable and bad chefs. So and let me know if you like to see me do these type of videos for other seasons as well. But yeah, let's get this list started off with my least favorite chef of season 11. And if you saw my least favorite chef video, you already know what it is, with that being Zack. Now, I will admit, I consider picking one of the more forgettable chefs from the season as my last pick, as, again, Zack at least had his moments. Of course, his incredible, opening night service, and just pretty much in general, his beginning was awesome. But, oh my god, I forgot just how bad he truly got when his downfall began. Like, my goodness. Not only that, but his bullying of Mary was awful. And of course, him outstaying his welcome, just like, I don't despise the dude, and again, I appreciate that he adds something to the season, but I do gotta say that I view him in an even more negative light after this rewatch. My second least favorite chef from this season is Danielle, and again, she is one of those chefs that I feel a bit bad for disliking, as her being pathetic made for some pretty funny moments, like her opening night kickout, and then asking if anyone had worked in a brigade before, only for everyone to raise their hand. But at the end of the day, she is just a little bit too pathetic and whiny for me, kind of similar to Lacey. Like, how many freaking times can she say she has no experience or how hard this is? Like, we get it. Oh my god. And honestly, she just kind of seems like one of those, those negative type of people to be around. Like, we all know those type of people. So, yeah, I mean, just simply not enough funny donkey moments for me to put her much higher than on 19. Now on to number 18, and this is the person who I've changed my opinion on the most during the rewatch, with that actually being Michael. Now, I never viewed Michael as a super likable guy or anything like that, but man, I forgot just how arrogant he could be at times. Like in episode 4, where he and Dan got put in the pantry, he had the audacity to act like Ramsay in front of Gordon himself and scream at Dan. Like, oh my god, it seems so pathetic to me. Being all talk as one of the best chefs, but not delivering, especially during the challenges. Saying he cared more about cooking than bringing his son home from the hospital when he was born. Just pretty bad stuff there. Now, I will say, I still think overall he is a good chef in the grand scheme of things. Even though he was a lot worse than I remember on the rewatch, I still stand by that he absolutely deserved to survive. Well, maybe not absolutely, but I still stand by he deserved to survive over Zack. I know some people think that that's one of the few cases where Zack deserved to stay. But yeah, Michael went from someone who, if anything, I looked at in a pretty positive light to my third least favorite chef from the season on the rewatch. We now have a string of forgettable chefs to talk about, and even though she isn't the most forgettable of the bunch, the lowest ranked on my list is Jacqueline. And I don't know, just something about Jacqueline is just kind of meh for me. Like, I feel her water bottle incident summed her up perfectly as a chef, as she just, I'm sure she is passionate, but man, she just came across as she could not care less about the competition. I don't know, just not a very good chef, no real storyline, so just a pretty meh character to me. At number 16 is the person eliminated right after Jacqueline, with that being Amanda. And Amanda, despite her low ranking, is pretty interesting because she was literally a frontrunner in my eyes up until her last 2 services, where she completely tanked. She survived her first nomination, but then eliminated after the second nomination. Again, just pretty much out of nowhere. And that's the thing, despite this on paper potentially being, could be set up as like a big downfall, she's just not really there on the show, and you blink and she's gone. Just a very odd chef. And while I certainly don't mind her, she's just simply too forgettable to have much higher. Now on to the most forgettable chef of the season to most people, but he's always had a bit of a special place in my heart, with that being Christian. And I've said this before, but it was really cool to see him come into the kitchen to help Zack finish that opening night service. A lot of people forget about that. To me, it was almost like he was a secret weapon of sorts. It was that was really cool. And in general, he just seemed like a very chill and passionate guy, so not much, obviously, but a bit more of a cult fan favorite for me compared to Jacqueline and Amanda. At number 14 is someone who I imagine a lot of people have a lot lower, as despite being the worst chef of the season, I do like Jeremy. Because, I mean, yeah, he was pathetic as a chef for sure, but he seemed genuinely wanting to help and grow. Like, I can see why he was nominated after the first service for sure, but I can't blame him for getting mad about being nominated for a mental lapse compared to everyone else who was making cooking mistakes. Like, I totally get that. And despite that nomination, he still busted his ass for his team the following reward challenge, helping them all over the barrier, and yet they still nominated him again after that for essentially no reason. So, I don't know. I really respect his passion and drive. And hey, even though he was a donkey, like at least his failure is made for good television, so that's also a positive. So yeah, definitely a pretty bad chef, all things considered. But Jeremy has his moments for me. On to number 13, and I'm very interested to see what people think about this placement. As you know, I do think a lot of people really do like him, but I just don't get much from Barrett. And again, he's not awful or anything, but kind of similar to Jacqueline, and he just seemed not to care at times. Like I totally get where Ramsay was coming from when he said that. He did have some funny quotes and him shaving his head to prove he cared. Like, hey, I totally respect that for sure. But yeah, definitely should have gone home over Dan after making two deadly mistakes in back-to-back services. That's pretty awful. Also, just kind of one of the main Dan haters in general, who, as you'll see later on, I'm pretty high on Dan compared to most people. So overall, Barrett had his good and bad moments, but too much bad for me. Or not bad per se, but I just don't care much about him to have him a much higher than 13. On to a chef that literally lasted only 2 episodes, plus an extra 5 minutes. But I'm sorry, Gina made for some incredible TV during that time. Again, obviously her bringing freaking Alfredo to the show. I mean, that is the legend that is Alfredo the Hell's Kitchen. Like that is objectively hilarious. And then her just going off on Nedra and her team in general, despite her age, was super funny. And say what you will about her quit, I find it pretty hilarious. Like she knew she had no chance and just left her team right before a challenge that required teamwork. I mean, just pretty hilarious stuff there. So, yeah, a very humorous early boot for me. And speaking of early boots, we're talking about the first boot now. One of the most legendary first boots ever in Sebastian. And I mean, what else needs to be said other than Zacky Wacky? I mean, one of the most famous moments in the history of the show. Probably the most famous moment from a first boot ever. And Sebastian's entire first service is just, he's one of the main highlights of one of the greatest services and episodes in the show's history. As not only do we get Zacky Wacky, but we also had him coming back multiple times. The third time just happening to be during when Ramsay was about to kick out both Michael and Barrett. I mean, just all-time classic stuff. Such an iconic first boot. On to a chef now who is definitely the most ambiguous out of all the chefs I have here, at least in my opinion, with that being Ray. And I respect his fight and passion, and in general being a 51-year-old in Hell's Kitchen. Again, guys, this show is not easy. But despite him giving us great moments, the way he did act at times, towards Dan especially, was pretty pathetic for a 51-year-old man. Like, I cannot deny that. So again, Ray had a lot of fight in him, both literally and figuratively, and had his good and bad moments. And so that's why I kind of feel that he's pretty much right in the middle here is a good spot for him at number 10. On to probably my most controversial pick, but I imagine a lot of people can agree with me on this, as I think Dan has a lot more positives than people realize. Now, is he annoying at times? Yes, absolutely. And man, is that face punchable. But the thing is, I feel the team unfairly ganged up on him multiple times throughout the season. I already mentioned Michael and Ray going completely overboard at times. The whole team nominated him after his incredible bounce back service in episode 7. That was awful. And again, he should not have gone home over Barrett after one bird pizza. Not to mention, I think he gave some pretty funny confessionals, and apparently went back to help Mary finish that marathon race they were both a part of. Like, that's freaking awesome. So yeah, while I can't argue with anyone who has him at the bottom of their list, he's in the upper half for me, landing here at number 9. On to someone who I'm sure a lot of people are shocked is this high, but I've always really liked Jessica, and I'll be the first one to admit, like, yeah, she's cute and adorable, like, that doesn't hurt. But the thing is, I never really understood, like, what went wrong with her, Like, she was highlighted as the best chef in the Red Kitchen on opening night, only to get nominated for like no real reason 2 episodes later. Like during her time as a waiter, Ramsay didn't even give her a break, like Salvatore, despite her saying she only went to school for 6 months. Like, I don't know the situation with that, but like, he did not like, he was still pretty hard on her throughout the entire night. And then her elimination episode, I think, was also pretty unfair, as Susan was the main problem in the kitchen that night. And I get it would have been tough to send home Susan after her first like true bad service, but like still, Jessica had so much potential and just seemed to be treated unfairly by like literally everyone this season. And speaking of Susan, she lands just above Jessica at number 7. And I know she's definitely not one of the more beloved underdogs by any stretch in the HK fandom, but she did have a pretty good run. Was a fine character, nothing great, nothing terrible. But mostly due to lasting as long as she did and fighting as hard as she did. And again, also had to deal with some outcasting by the red team at points. So, I really do respect Susan, even if I don't love her by any means. At number 6 is the winner of the season in Janelle. And as I said, there's really not much to say about her, unfortunately. Like, of course, I respect her as a winner. And I think a lot of people underestimate Janelle as a winner as well. Like, again, a big reason why she's so invisible and not much to talk about her when it comes to making a story video is that, like, she's made one mistake through, like, the first 10, 11 services of the season. Like, there's just not much to really highlight about her in a bad way. Again, I wish they highlighted her in at least some way, but still, like, she was freaking awesome. There was no reason to put the attention on her. But yeah, I mean, just a nothing character, though. I mean, I don't know. I guess she had her moments, especially during the Black Jacket phase. But yeah, I mean, I can't put her too low or anything, being the winner and being a great chef. But I just can't have her as a top 5. And on to number 5 is someone who I said was pretty forgettable in the grand scheme of things, and I still stand by that. But on a rewatch here, she adds more than Janelle to me, with that being Sydney. And Sydney just seemed like a badass in the kitchen, was always ready to go, 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 and energetic. And I can really respect that and relate to that. Great chef, had a great run, but not really any true memorable moments. But due to her overall character, combined with her deep run, Sydney is able to sneak her way into my top 5 list for the season. On to who I'm sure many people have in their top 2, if not their flat-out favorite chef of the season. But at number 4, I have Mary. And Mary is, of course, one of the greatest underdogs in the show's history, and for all intents and purposes, is the main character of this season. Like, you cannot deny her incredible run. Again, the fact that she went from looking like a guaranteed early boot to making the finale is absolutely insane. But I don't know, I think she is kind of overrated, honestly. Like, I know she was much better than Janelle as a leader, but as a chef, I mean, to me, like, Janelle was clearly better. While she's an amazing underdog, like, at the same time, I'm not, like, in love with her character or anything like that, so I mean, I do really like Mary's run this season. I just really like the other 3 chefs above her a bit more. At number 3 is Anthony, who of course gave us some hilarious one-liners this season. And just in general, one of those chill and funny dudes in Hell's Kitchen, which again is so incredibly rare. And he pretty much remained like that all season, which is just so cool. And I'll be dang, other than his awful Final 7 episode, like, you could even make the argument he was the blue team's best chef this season. So, yeah, I mean, how can you hate Anthony, So, clearly a great chef, a great character, and he lands here number 3. At number 2 is most people's favorite chef this season, but John is my personal second favorite chef of season 11. And I've said it a million times, but despite his somewhat forgotten slow start, you gotta respect John and all he went through, especially during all those challenges where he dominated, and the blue team just simply could not come through for him. Like, oh my god, that had to be so brutal, especially during those punishments. Was a super chill guy, almost a bit too chill in a way that I just simply find the chef above him a bit more entertaining. But again, John's a freaking legend of the show for very good reason. And at number 1, my favorite chef of season 11 is Nedra. And yeah, like I said in my favorite chefs video, the thing with Nedra, like, yeah, she's over the top, but she's so over the top that it's absolutely hilarious. Like, her confessionals are some all-time great ones. Her going completely insane at the thought of going up for nomination is just so funny. Like, I'm so grateful we got her on a boring season like this. And while I can absolutely see why people wouldn't like her being the most over-the-top contestant in the show's history is what makes her incredible TV, and that is why she is my favorite chef of season 11. So there you have it, guys, my ranking of all season 11 contestants. Let me know what you think of each contestant in the comments below, and again, be sure to let me know if you would like to see more chef ranking videos of other seasons in the future as well. And yeah, hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and with all that said, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.